Hello, everybody. Scott Golden here with the Pro Wrestling Logic YouTube channel. Welcome to those of you who are new. Welcome back to those of you who know what we do around here. We are trying to become the largest audio archive for pro wrestling content on YouTube. And we need your help to do that. We suggest what you'd like to hear, but like, subscribe, comment below, and keep us engaged. That's wonderful. This is the TNT review series, after which we're going to do the Saturday Night's Main Event series. But we'd love your input as to what we do as far as content. So if you have a comment, please do so below. And in any event, we'll move on to the September 6th, 1985 edition of TNT Tuesday Night Titans. September 6th, we are in the final year now because TNT ends in September of 1986. So we've moved into 12 months left of TNT, maybe a little bit further into the month, but we open with the Junkyard Dog, JYD, who is flapping his arms like a bird. I didn't know dogs could fly, but this dog's trying to anyway. Uh, anyway, we hear Junkyard Dog talking about, and they always talk about his theme song, Another One Bites the Dust. Obviously, came across that biting for Goody in Mid-South and using it in the early stages here before musicians shut that down. And obviously, they had to use some really junky, um, junky music as a do over or a dub over on the WWE Network and anywhere that's not YouTube. Anyhow, but in any event, Junkyard Dog talks about challenges, talks about wanting to take on Hulk Hogan, talks about wanting to take on Greg Valentine, talks about wanting to have a musical styling on the upcoming wrestling album, which, I mean, just think about this. Wrestling at this point has cartoons, action figures, music albums, has had WrestleMania, all of that in less than a full, 18 months? From 1984 until now, and just really the rapid ascension of the WWF brand at the time is something that people in marketing should study. Anyway, we move on to a squash match for the Junkyard Dog. Dog using headbutts and punches, clotheslines, and later his leaping power slam, which is really a thing of beauty. Dog using the power slam probably better than or only two people I can think of that do a better power slam. Well, actually, maybe three. Current day, Dustin Rhodes' power slam is a thing of beauty, but he learned his from combination of Buzz Tyler and Million Dollar Man Ted DiBiase, or at least that's how I believe. So all of those men have a good power slam. I'll ask you to comment below who has the best power slam in pro wrestling. I'd really love your opinion on that. Comment below if you like. Junkyard Dog talks about being a role model and how important it is to be influential and useful for the kids. Unfortunately, Dog passes away in a car accident in 1998, I believe. Anyway, Dog is a guy who certainly you don't want to mess with. Unfortunately, had some issues of a substance abuse variety. So, kind of being a role model, maybe not his forte. But anyhow, we move into a interview with the tandem of the newly acquired adorable Adrian Adonis, who isn't adorable yet, just Adrian Adonis, still the New Yorker, carrying around a briefcase, which I don't remember finding out what was in the briefcase. Maybe it was the ladies' clothing eventually that would be worn by what later became adorable Adrian. But anyhow, Bobby Heenan endorsing his new charge here. Bobby Heenan actually, within a couple of months, gets in the ring in some six-man action with John Studd and Adrian Adonis. I had forgotten or maybe didn't know that Heenan had managed Adonis. And of course, Adonis probably has one of the bigger matches in the history of Roddy Piper's career, WrestleMania 3. Of course, Piper takes time off after that, but at least fourth from the top on the biggest wrestling card in the United States for what, probably 2 decades at least, in terms of attendance and visibility and notoriety and all that good stuff. Adonis is proud of his abilities, proud of being a fighter, proud of being unique and being justifiably him, and you can start to see that he's got some things to hide. Uh, Very unique here. Speaking of unique, leaping Lanny Poffo, who we would later know as the Genius, who you should know as the brother of the Macho Man Randy Savage. Of course, Randy and Lanny Poffo, the Poffo brothers, the sons of Angelo Poffo, a wrestler in the earlier decades of the sport. But anyhow, at this point, one of Randy's conditions for leaving Memphis and coming to the World Wrestling Federation was that his brother would be given a job, and Lanny, in fact, was given a job for several years, from 85 through 92 or 93. Here, he is dressed completely in, I would say a suit of armor. I really think this could have been an action figure cartoon character sort of thing. He doesn't do this all that long, maybe on and off for about a year. I'm assuming it's because the suit of armor was a pain in the tail to carry through the airport, or maybe he only used it for television. But suffice to say, the suit of armor thing could have really been, superhero status, but they didn't really do it. They also talk about his athletic ability and having a gymnastic nature, like a Rip Rogers, like a Ricky Starr, and the like. But in any event, Poffo does say that he has studied that. He's also studied poetry and regales us with a poem. Not before we also see a match with Barry O. Now, if you're unfamiliar with Barry O is Barry Orton. Yes, the Orton family. Barry Orton, though, never gets beyond perennial enhancement talent status here, while Cowboy Bob flourishes. Maybe it's to do with his body, maybe it's to do with his look, maybe it's to do with the fact that he wasn't political enough, but suffice to say, he does get involved in some lawsuits later. I always enjoyed Barry O quite a bit. I thought he was a good enhancement talent and fun to watch. Lanny Poffo's match with Barry O serves its purpose. I always wondered why it took so many years for Poffo to get at it and to really make it. I don't understand why it took nearly 4 years for him to be in the company before he gets a push and the heel turn and all that. But because Lanny's really talented, the first guy to really bring the float over style moonsault to the U.S., at least on a national basis. The first guy to do a lot of interesting moves, integrating gymnastic style into the U.S. consciousness as far as pro wrestling went. Of course, they're doing it in Japan, which I'm sure is where he learned it, but at the same time, back then, only your wealthy people had VCRs, so we really had to be a student of the game to have followed that. Then we see that Poffo addresses Bobby the Brain Heenan. He calls him a weasel and a cheat and a white collar wimp and a whole bunch of other nifty things. Lanny Poffo then learns or helps people to learn gymnastics as there is a group of young people from the age of about 8 to 16 who do some pommel horse work. Young gentlemen who do work on a pommel horse from a local gymnastics school, and it's interesting filler. Poffo, who is very outspoken current day about the pitfalls of marriage, is very encouraging of the process here. Of course, never discouraging to his daughter. He only has, I believe, one daughter, but it's just interesting when you hear about Poffo's stances on traditional marital relationships, and then to see him endorsing kids as a babyface here. I got a snicker out of it, just because he's been very outspoken about marriage is not being for him. Anyway, we move on to the fabulous Moolah. And she is planning to train other women, and this is actually a legitimate endeavor, as this is the point where Camp Moolah and Moolah Drive or Moolah Way, one of the two. A street is named after her eventually. She does train many women and several men, actually, over the next decade and a half or so. Many of the women had already been training with her, but now she actually has a compound where they can live and train, and kind of goes that way. Uh, it's interesting to say the very least, and then we move on to um, let's see here. Let me grab my notes 1 second. Then we move on to the integral parts of Corporal Kirchner on TNT. Talks about being an adrenaline junkie. Talks about jumping out of planes and swimming through swamps and doing all sorts of really not otherworldly, but really intense kinds of things. And then he explains that he uh, is part of the 3V edition. There is a squash match here with he and Terry Gibbs, which is relatively nondescript. I know I mentioned that, but certainly TNT not a main wrestling program unless there's an angle to be had. Kind of a squash match program with a lot of clipped matches. And that is my phone, so I will give it some attention and be right back in 2 shakes of a pig's tail. All right, and as we move forward there, I just had a business call, but anyway, as we move forward, Corporal Kirchner is still talking a lot about the nature of that. We move into the final segment. The final segment is just Bobby Heenan going more at Lanny Poffo. Again, Heenan stuff. I wish there was just a collection of Bobby Heenan insults, just like hours upon hours of Bobby Heenan being funny. I think he probably, when it comes to wrestling, I think he's got the quickest wit of all time. Comment below if you think that you recognize someone with a quicker wit more consistently over an extended period of time than Bobby Heenan that's associated with pro wrestling. I'd love to have that debate or discussion with you. Anyway, that will close this edition of TNT, which is the September 6th, 1985 edition. And we will bring you more of the TNT series here on Pro Wrestling Logic. And please comment, subscribe, and keep your options open as we continue to bring you the most comprehensive pro wrestling audio archive on YouTube.